Hey everybody, welcome to Southern Living Facebook Live. Today we're going to talk about one of our favorite recipes at Southern Living, a skillet cornbread recipe. This is a fantastic recipe. You can find it at the bottom of the comments. Link will take you directly to it. But we're going to talk about cornbread a little bit. It is really the quintessential Southern bread. It was born out of the impoverished South, where Southerners had to use everything. Cornmeal, flour, the buttermilk. All this came from things they had around. The cornmeal is obviously incredibly important to cornbread, but flour is also essential. Very small amounts of flour to kind of soften this coarse ground cornmeal. Now, flour was very expensive, which is a big reason why such a small amount is in cornmeal. They used the mill of the corn that was also used for something else. So all these things went into making this really great bread. Buttermilk. Milk was expensive. They had buttermilk, which is essentially the liquid left over from churning of the butter. So everything is incorporated to make this really great, luscious, crispy textured bread that served its purpose for a base for soups and stews. It was even crumbled into cold buttermilk as kind of a late afternoon snack or a very quick dinner. Lard is also incredibly important. We have bacon fat here, but a lot of leftover lard from rendered down pork products was brought in as a flavoring agent to enrich in this very humble bread that again was born of necessity, using everything that was around to create these really great meals. Well, let's get started on this. I've got here some coarse ground cornmeal. Now, before we get started, it's important to talk about our cooking vessel, a cast iron skillet. Okay. Early on, they would cook their cornbread on the incredibly heated, over open fire undersides of mallets, of shovels, and then the cast iron skillet was born. So now we're going to take this large cast iron skillet and put it in our oven, which you're preheating at 450, and let it get nice and hot while your oven is preheating. Because you want, when your cornmeal batter hits that skillet, it's important to hear the sizzle. That lets you know you're going to have this perfect brown crust. So let's get going. I've got some coarse ground cornmeal here. All right, we're going to take about 1.5 cups. Now, one thing that's very important with our recipes at Southern Living is the exactness of our measurements. Now, I'm going to spoon this cornmeal in my measuring cup, and I'm going to level it so we're sure we have the exact amount. You can see the coarseness in this, which is why a small amount of flour is used to really soften that, give it a little more luscious texture. Now, the very traditional, one of the first iterations of cornbread, the hoe cake, which was cooked on the back of the heated hose they would use to plow the fields all day, was made from without the flour. So it was a very, very flat cake. Now I've got another 1/2 cup here. It's going in. Now we're going to take a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Again, this flour here is just going to sort of add a little bit of softness, a little bit more gentle and delicate texture to our cornmeal. Be sure we get that nice and level. All right. Now, we've got our cornmeal, we've got our flour. We need something to leaven it, okay, to give it some lift. We're going to add a teaspoon of baking powder. We'll just kind of over pour and then level. We're going to add a teaspoon of baking soda. Nice and level. Now comes some more flavoring agents. We're going to use a little salt, a teaspoon there. Now, a subject of great debate in the South is sugar in cornbread. Yes or no? A more northern version of cornbread is very cakey, super sweet. Here in the South, you know, it goes back and forth. We like a little tiny bit of sweetness to create a balance with all these other really savory ingredients we have in here. We've got our corn, we've got the flour, we've got some salt. We're going to be adding bacon fat, which is going to be giving it a nice richness. And a little bit of sugar, a little bit, was going to go a long way in creating this really great balance of flavor. So I'm going to take just 2 teaspoons of sugar. Again, just to give it a tiny bit of sweetness. It's going to blend well with the bacon, the flavor of the cornmeal. I'm just going to incorporate all these dry ingredients, give them a stir. Now, I've got my cast iron skillet getting super hot. We've got bacon drippings here. Now, I think it's important for everyone to have a little bacon fat in their fridge. It goes a long way with cooking potatoes, making cornbread, is a fat for searing off any kind of fish, meat, tossing your vegetables over a hot skillet. Really good stuff. Now we have our liquid here that we're going to be incorporating into our dry ingredients. We got 2 cups of buttermilk. Again, buttermilk is a very classic liquid agent in cornbread, as I mentioned earlier, because it was born out of necessity. They used what they had on hand. What they had on hand, which was a free product, was the buttermilk, the leftover liquid from the churning of their butter. Okay? 1 egg. I'm just going to whisk these together. The buttermilk's going to give it that, a little bit of the acidic flavor. Egg yolk's going to richen it, give it some good color. That egg white is going to help bind all this together. You've got a lot of different things coming together here to make, this very humble bread with many, many uses. I mean, think about it. With cornbread, you can have it like we're going to have it today, cut right out of the skillet with a little bit of butter, some honey on it. You can make larger amounts and turn that into cornbread dressing or cornbread stuffing. And I grew up watching my grandfather have, after a Sunday dinner, take the leftover cornbread, crumble it into a big tall glass of buttermilk for kind of a late night snack or even for breakfast. So this thing can be used across the board in many different things, which I think is a great part of good Southern culinary ingenuity. So I've got my milk and egg, got my dry ingredients here, all my flavoring agents. It's time to render down or melt down our bacon fat. Now your cast iron skillet is super hot. The oven is ready to go. What you want to do is just 2 tablespoons of bacon drippings. Get all that out of there. You see it's going to melt pretty much right away. You want to put this back in the oven. Want this really super, super hot before you incorporate these drippings. It's pretty much the main flavoring agent in your cornbread. Let's go back in. Now, that's only going to take a couple of minutes to get super hot. You don't want it to stay in there too long because the fat will burn, could put forth a sort of a bitter flavor in your cornbread. But you do want it to get nice and hot. More importantly, to get your skillet to remain super hot. The fat's going to line your skillet, so when you incorporate the fat into this mixture, your skillet is nice and seasoned, batter goes in, you're going to listen for that sizzle. We're going to hear that here shortly. That's the sound you want. That's when you know you're going to be getting a perfectly browned and cooked crust to your cornbread. It's going to get brown on the top because of the dry heat circulating in the oven. In the meantime, while that's heating up, we're going to add our liquid to our dry. Okay? Just get that right in there. You want to stir it just till it's incorporated. I like to kind of use the bowl as part of my stirring. Kind of turn it. As I'm going back and forth. You can see it comes together quite nicely. Cornmeal is so versatile. You can make, hot water cornbread, which doesn't need buttermilk, flour, anything like that. You can just take the straight cornmeal, put a little bit of leavening in it, a little baking powder, a little baking soda, run some super hot water in there to make your batter. You can fry it up in bacon drippings and hot oil. A lot of different things you can do there. Now, see, it's just come together. Your skillet's getting nice and hot. Your bacon drippings are getting hot. It's time to take your bacon fat and add it to our cornbread. It's been there just a couple of minutes. You don't want it too hot, but what you do want is this effect. You can see your skillet there is nice and seasoned. You want to stir pretty quickly with this, just to kind of get it incorporated. I mean, how could this be bad, right? Bacon fat, cornmeal, buttermilk, all those things taste good. They taste even better when they're put together. Now, you want to be kind of quick once it's incorporated. That is the sound you want to hear. That little whisper of a sizzle, not too much, because you don't want it too hot. As you can see, the cooking process has already begun right around the side there. Now we're going to go into the oven. In about 20 minutes, out comes your cornbread. The aroma is unbelievable. You can really, truly smell everything in there. It's got this great smell of bacon, the cornmeal and the buttermilk coming together. It's got this almost like it smells like it looks, which is luscious, very crispy, has a slightly kind of creamy interior where that cornmeal and the buttermilk is all kind of come together. The egg is enriched, and you really can get all of those through the aroma of your cornbread. Now, that is cooking. We've already prepared some right here, and you can see beautiful golden brown. You go around the sides here, just carefully, you can see where it's perfectly browned. Now you can serve this in the skillet, cutting wedges, or you can take it out, cut it and stack it. I mean, this is really just exactly what it wants. The smell is amazing. It's perfectly browned on top. And again, what a better serving utensil than your cast iron skillet. I mean, you've got like the presentation all in one here. And I'm going to take this out. Let's flip this out. Go ahead and cut it. See, nice and golden brown there. You can butter it. You can drizzle honey over it. You can hear there's a nice crispiness to it. Let's look at that. Oh yeah. It's beautiful. Nice and moist. Crispy on the top, crispy on the bottom, super moist interior. Perfect for eating immediately. Eat what you want, save the rest for your stuffings, for your dressings. This is really, really nice.
Hey, Robby.
Yes.
There's a debate raging on Facebook.
A debate raging on
about
Facebook.
Sugar in cornbread.
I knew that was going to happen. Yes.
So,
well,
what's your stance?
My stance is I love this recipe. At Southern Living, we've gone through many iterations of cornbread, and I find that a small amount of sugar is okay. I mean, you're going to taste this, you are going to be able to say, oh my God, there's sugar in that, because it's a balance. You work hard at creating a balance of flavor with some good quality coarse ground cornmeal, good flour, perfect amount of salt, perfect amount of fat that goes in. This sugar is a part of this really, harmonious relationship of all those ingredients. Now, I think you can add too much sugar, absolutely. I don't particularly care for the super sweet, more northern style of cornbreads. But I think a little sugar goes a very long way in creating a balance. And again, only 2 teaspoons are in this whole amount. And it just works. It also aids with some of the caramelizing of it. You get a lot of this color from the caramelizing of the sugar. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think too much sugar is wrong. But I think this balance we created here is perfect. So this is our favorite skillet cornbread recipe. You can go to southernliving.com and find more about it.